Hello and welcome. I'm glad you're back. Remember, we're working on a couple of basic premises. One is that it is absolutely necessary to understand what mental health is before you can take deliberate steps to improvement. Once you do have a good understanding of what mental health is, then making progress toward changing some of the problematic areas of your mental health will be far, far easier. It won't be by chance, it'll be by choice. The other basic premise that we're working on is that mental health is determined by two qualities or characteristics in the human brain, one of which is fixed and the other is variable. Last time we took up and looked at in detail at the variable component, basic beliefs. Today we will take up and examine in an overview, first of all, the fixed component of mental health, and that is inborn intentions. Now, unless you happen to have been around me for the last several years, this term inborn intentions is going to be a new concept for you. So it will be necessary to look at it in some detail. But the inborn intentions are briefly described as 4 intrinsic behavioral goals that each one of us would move towards if it were not for those basic beliefs that we've learned previously that tend to make us go in a different direction. That is, these intrinsic behavioral goals, or our inborn intentions, are directional behaviors that we would conduct if it were not for those countervailing influences. That is, we are hardwired to move in these directions. We're hardwired to do it, but those hard wires are all too easily overridden by our basic beliefs. But with that general concept of the fixed component, inborn intentions, and the variable component, basic beliefs, when you have those very well in mind, then we'll be able to make some progress on improving. As mentioned, there are 4 inborn intentions. The first one, and in my opinion the most important one, is human dignity. This phrase summarizes all of the qualities or characteristics that make us the human beings that we are. They are intrinsic to us, we were born with them, but there are certain qualities or characteristics that we will go into next time in detail that make us the humans that we are. Don't forget, keep in mind, human dignity, quite important. The next inborn intention is freedom of choice. We all like to choose from available alternatives, and we don't like to have our choices restricted. That comprises our freedom of choice. Third quality or characteristic is sense of accomplishment. We want to accomplish, we need to accomplish, we must accomplish a number of things in life in order to continue to exist. But in today's modern society, we can do far more than simply exist with our accomplishments. It goes much broader than that. But nevertheless, the point of being an inborn intention is that when we do accomplish some task or achieve a goal, we have a good feeling, a sense of accomplishment that is reinforcing and gives us a good feeling. There can be a number of benefits, of course, that derive from some practical benefits that derive from accomplishing, but in part we actually go about accomplishing just to get that good feeling of having done so. which comes first, the benefits or the feeling causes us to act and behave in certain ways. Doesn't matter. The sense of accomplishment comes with achievement. The fourth and final inborn intention is what I call love. Now, I'll leave to the philosophers and romantics and novelists and poets to define what mental health, what mental health is. No, I'm doing that. To define what love is, but I'm not going to try to do it from an emotional standpoint. But what I mean by love, and what the sense that I'm using it here, is that love is that positive outlook that you have toward the outside world. The outside world is optimistic. It's a wonderful place. It has merit to it. It's worth preserving. In other words, you have a positive worldview toward the world itself, the environment, and the people in it. That is a concept of love that I'll be thinking about when I use that term throughout this series. It's an important concept that we move toward, except for those pesky basic beliefs. The inborn intentions share a number of qualities or characteristics that I'd like for you to know about. First of all, look at the name, inborn intentions. Inborn means that they are intrinsic. We were born with them. We came into this world with those as a part of our nature, as a part of our makeup. Another quality or characteristic of the inborn intentions is that they are immutable. They don't go anywhere. They remain with us as a part of our existence. We can lose sight of them. We can act differently. They can be insulted by ourselves or by others, but nevertheless, they are still there. The importance of realizing this is that should we fall away from and be acting or feeling or behaving contrary to an inborn intention, we can always get back to it, because the basic fundamental quality that we're talking about, any one of the four, is still there, regardless of whether we recognize it or not, whether we are in touch with it or not, whether we believe it or not. Those qualities or characteristics are there, and they are immutable. Another quality or characteristics of the inborn intentions is that they are universal. Every human being on earth has the same inborn intentions. If it were not so, then there would be no universality, there would be no reason for being able to use these qualities or concepts as a guide to what we need to do. But since they are so widespread, universal, then we have something to rely on as a directional guide. And that's the fourth quality or characteristic that I want to mention. That is, they are directional. They give us a basic roadmap, a basic plan of what we need to be able to do. We are not always going to think or act or believe in that direction, but that's the basic idea of an inborn intention, is that it is there to provide subconsciously the directions that we need to take in life. This concept of, that might be called the theory of inborn intentions, is so new and such a radical departure from ordinary lines of thinking about human behavior that I'm often asked, where did this idea come from? Did you come up with that? Is it valid? No, I really can't claim credit for its origin. Back many years ago, my copy of this book says 1968. This is a book by Robert G. Olson, the title of which is An Introduction to Existentialism. In here, Olson pointed out, called attention to four factors that he referred to as existential values, that is, common to everyone. This thought was so important to me, it struck me as so vital to understanding ourselves that several years later, let's see, it was 1982, I published this small pamphlet on the ABCs of self-understanding. That was far long before I got into and got my degree in counseling psychology from Nova University and became a licensed mental health counselor. Many years before that, I had this concept that if we were to understand ourselves, we need to understand these four existential values, which in this little pamphlet I renamed because I think it makes it a little clearer. Olson's existential values, and I call them inborn intentions. As such, they continued to play a part in my own thinking for many, many years. And after I did get that degree and spent over 2 decades as a licensed mental health counselor, I then incorporated that same idea, the theory of inborn intentions, and related it to how it relates to mental health itself. Pathways to Mental Health and Anxiety Management by yours truly. It's available at this time on Amazon.com, and it's available as an ebook. So this concept of the theory of inborn intentions has a long history, even though it is not yet well known. Hopefully this series of videos is going to make a big change in that. Despite all my interest in this topic of inborn intentions and how it relates to mental health, there's still the question of, is that concept valid? I would love to be a part of and help design a research project that defines positively or negatively whether inborn intentions exist. My concept is that they are actual neural pathways that are laid down in the brain, probably in the brain stem, that old part of the human brain, as a very basic part of our existence, along with located roughly in the same area that control of respiration and heartbeat and temperature and every other factor that controls us subconsciously as the humans that we are, that these qualities or characteristics are also laid down in that same area. And as mentioned, I would love to be a part of a research project that would confirm or disallow that. If there are any of you out there that are associated professionally with neuroanatomists, and I would love to psychoneuroimmunology, and I would love to talk to you about a research project along that line. But you do not have to wait, fortunately, for a research project to prove the existence of inborn intentions. You can do this quite easily for yourself when you have a good understanding of what these are and how your basic beliefs relate to them. their existence can easily be proven by your own personal experience. And that ultimately is going to be the deciding factor in their validity, regardless of any research project. What you make out of it is going to be the determining factor. And I'm here to suggest exactly how that can be done over the remaining parts of this series. So all that leads us to your famous assignment, the assignment that you'll have after each one of these videos. Today's assignment will probably be the most difficult that you'll encounter in this whole series, but I still would appeal to you to take it seriously and give it some thought, whether you are able to come up with an answer or not. What I'd like for you to do is to review the qualities or characteristics of inborn intentions. That is, they are intrinsic, they are immutable, they are universal, and they're directional. Your task is to see if you can come up with another quality or characteristic of human activity that meets those criteria other than the ones that have mentioned. Maybe it would be better to wait on this task until after you know a little bit more about each one of the inborn intentions, which we'll be taking up over the next 2 videos. But I'd like for you to go ahead and do it now to see what you can come up with. If you are able to suggest or think you know of a quality or characteristic that fits these criteria that have not been described, then by all means get in touch with me. I'm serious. I would love. This is a concept that's put together by humans, and they can always be improved. The concept is not perfect, and if you can make a contribution toward improving the concept in any way by defining, suggesting a new quality or characteristic or an additional quality or characteristic that I have not thought of and also didn't think of, then get in touch with me and let me know what that is. And I will be happy to incorporate it and give you credit for doing so. Yes, indeed. Give that some thought, and even if you're not able to come up with one, it will help you formalize and solidify the concept of what an inborn intention is. If you cannot think of one after giving it a good deal of thought, then that will help convince you that they exist in and of themselves. Be sure to write your answers down and again keep it in a file as you have been doing with the other answers to your assignments at the end of each video. As mentioned, this concept of inborn intentions, these 4 factors, are so important that I'm going to spend the next 2 videos talking about them. The first video next time will be on the very vital concept of human dignity. Once we have a good, clear understanding of that, and you have a deeper appreciation of your own human dignity, we'll take up the other 3 in a single video: sense of accomplishment, freedom of choice, and love. They are also important, of course, but I want to emphasize the human dignity first. Okay, well, I think that's about it. Going to go down and get some coffee now in my little mug that is our logo for our corporation initiative for Mental Health Awareness Incorporated. So that's it for this session. And remember, until next time, mental health is free, but you've got to work at it. Take care. Bye for now.